My fellow Guyanese, I take this opportunity to let you know that the partners we have been working with to develop the Amaila Hydro Project, Site Global Blackstone, have expressed their intention to withdraw from this project. They took this decision after numerous efforts by the government, national stakeholders, and the two companies themselves to obtain parliamentary opposition support, but failed. This government had placed this project as the highest priority after the 2011 general and regional elections, as no one needs convincing that cheaper energy is indispensable to faster and greater advancement of our economy and the country, moving Guyana from a commodity agricultural-based economy to one that manufactures value-added products. I cannot overemphasize the fact that a successful hydro project will bring direct and indirect benefits to every single Guyanese. As was demonstrated after the most rigorous examination of Amaila's project, the cost of electricity for both domestic and commercial consumers would fall by 40% in the first instance of hydropower generation. It will then fall by 71%, and in 20 years would fall by 91% of today's costs. Moreover, Guyana would have saved billions of US dollars of its expenditure on fuel importation used to generate electricity. We would have also saved the subsidy to GPL, which was $6 billion last year. This money would have been available to be used to provide more, better, and higher quality of goods and services in order to improve the welfare and quality of lives of all Guyanese. My fellow Guyanese, cheap energy is vital to the industrialization of Guyana. Industrialization would create thousands of high-quality jobs for all Guyanese, particularly our young people. I would like to let you know that we exerted great efforts to stress the importance of this project to the opposition parties and to all stakeholders in the country. Sadly, the opposition remained unconvinced. In March 2012, a few months after assuming the presidency in 2011, I invited the two opposition parties in the parliament, the APNU and the AFC, to the office of the president to give them a presentation on the Amaila Hydro Falls project and its status to date. I asked our technical staff to give that presentation. It was agreed that the opposition parties would take 2 weeks to go through the documents provided and then to have follow-up discussions on their concerns. I emphasized to the opposition leaders that their buy-in was critical to the success of this, the largest single transformative project ever undertaken in the history of our nation. I mentioned that I did not want to taint this project in wild charges of corruption. Finally, I made it clear that we were ready to answer any question and provide as much information as we could to satisfy their concerns. At that same meeting, we offered to give them similar presentations on any of the other major projects we had ongoing or in the pipeline. I asked them if they were interested to let me know. I never heard from them on any of these projects. In the same year, Site Global also met the leaders of the opposition and gave them a presentation on this project as well. Both Site and the government also briefed the private sector. During the debate on the estimates of the 2012 budget, our ministers, including the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance, answered exhaustively every question put to them by the opposition on this project. This was repeated in the 2013 parliamentary budget debate. In June of this year, I once again invited the opposition parties in Parliament to another presentation to give them updates and developments with regards to the project. The AFC declined the invitation, so the presentation was made to the APNU delegation. We also shared with them other agreements that were commercially confidential so that they would be full disclosure and they would have a full picture of where and what were the critical stages on the project. They were also advised on the 2 parliamentary interventions that would have to be submitted and supported in order to conclude the financing of this project. Copies of the hydroelectric power bill and the motion on the increasing of the debt ceiling in order to guarantee the investment were shared with the opposition delegation. Although the AFC was not present, they too received the volumes of documents shared with the APNU. On June 13, 2013, the bill and motion were laid in the National Assembly. On June 28, 2013, the opposition parties asked that we defer the debate on these 2 matters, which we agreed to, whilst warning that timelines had to be met. The government even asked the Inter-American Development Bank to meet with the opposition parties and bring them up to date with the developments on the project and what were the critical junctions and timelines to be met in terms of keeping the project alive. 2 such meetings were held. Despite these efforts, on July 18th, the AFC and the APNU voted against the bill and motion. It was clear that Amaila was now in jeopardy. The government, unwilling to see this major national undertaking squashed, held a national stakeholders forum on July 25th with over 300 representatives from the labor movement, the business community, religious and faith-based organizations, women, youth, and Amerindians. The forum concluded with a declaration calling on the opposition parties to support the project. Additionally, we invited Site Global and Blackstone to come to Guyana to speak with the parliamentary opposition and the public at large to answer and allay any misleading and ill-conceived theories that were being fed to the public by some of the opposition anti-government commentators and so-called experts. Site Global and Blackstone met privately with the opposition parties on July 31st, 2013 in the Parliament chambers and held a public consultation later on the same day at the Guyana International Convention Center. Fellow Guyanese, there has been considerable confusion in recent weeks concerning the cost of the Amaila Falls project to be borne by Guyana. Let me clarify. The total cost to the taxpayers is approximately $100 million in equity, of which $15 million has already been spent on roads and other accessories. And $80 million of the remainder is already deposited in the GRIF and is awaiting transfer. The future cost to the taxpayer is limited to the outstanding amount needed for the access road. The total savings to the taxpayer because of the removal of GPL subsidy will be at least $30 million per year, or $600 million over 20 years, far in excess of the $100 million provided by taxpayer in equity. The total reductions to the consumer tariff bill will decrease because of Amaila Falls. The total public debt for Amaila Fall is zero. This fact has been lost the most in the majority of recent media coverage. After 20 years, Amaila Falls hydropower project will be 100% owned by Guyana and is expected to last for 100 years or more. My fellow Guyanese, I have gone into details on these efforts so that you can be well informed. The opposition parties cannot say that there was not full disclosure, nor that they were not fully engaged on this project. They were privy to exactly the same information that the government had. I must also stress that labor and private sector bodies were active in discussing the merits of this project to Guyana and in meeting with parliamentary opposition parties, calling on them to support the project. Yet, on August 7, 2013, when the bill and amended debt ceiling motion were returned to the National Assembly, the APNU voted against it. For the first time, the AFC voted for the bill, but not before slashing the debt ceiling guarantee from 130 billion to 50 billion. This is even after we acceded to their request to confine the debt ceiling to only the Amaila Falls hydro project. Unfortunately, the AFC did too little, too late. Side Global and Blackstone wanted full parliamentary support for this project because of the magnitude of their investment. Because of the lack of support from all the opposition parties, the country has lost this prestigious international partner support. My fellow Guyanese, we were so close to being in a position of reaching growth rates of more than 10% per annum. This investment alone would have been approximately 25% of GDP. By their short-sighted position and a clear reluctance or inability to rise above narrow political agendas to support national policies, the opposition has put Guyana in danger of losing much more money. The $80 million US dollars we have earned by selling carbon credits to Norway is in real danger of being lost, since this was to be plowed into this project as our equity. At the same time, we have expended $15 million US dollars of our own money on doing preparatory work. Much of this, it should be noted, was approved by the joint opposition in the 2012 budget. Now, with their rejection of support for this project, they have, in essence, wasted these funds. I want to thank all of you who supported this project and urge that you remain committed. My fellow Guyanese, I want you to know that I will continue to work to get cheaper energy for Guyana. I will continue to try to convince investors to stay on and invest in this project and in this country. And I still hope that the opposition, particularly the APNU, would see the bigger picture and that they would put the interests of our people above narrow party lines and rise to the call to support this vital project for the development of our country.